Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Paw Your Way Into Our Hearts Hop, and I am playing along with Follow a Sketch February. The Paw Hop is about animals, and this is the sketch that we are using for today. It is by Kelly Holyfield? Holyfield? I'm not sure. I hope I got that right. I apologize if I got it wrong. So I have this stencil that was designed by MK over at Some Assemblage Required, and then it is actually offered at the Scrapping Reflections website that Sandy runs, and the two of them teamed up to provide that stencil. I'll put a link for it down below if it's still available. But what I did was I took it, traced it, went off screen, cut it all out so that I have a black piece of paper that looks just like that stencil. And then I am also using this circular stencil from Sandy's shop. And this one is concentric circles, so that whole center is filled with more circular stencils. I'm just using this particular size because I felt like this size was the best size for the layout that I wanted to do today, documenting one of my son's kittens. This cat is called Naboo. All of his cats are named after Star Wars, well, either planets or characters. So this is a planet in Star Wars. And she is a black cat with these bright green eyes, and this paper just matched her eyes perfectly, so I decided to go ahead and use that. I'm using my distress tool from Some Assemblage Required to rough up the edges, and I have already run it through my sewing machine off screen. Unfortunately, my sewing machine is not really set up very well so that I can get video of it, but I am working to rectify that, so I will have video of sewing soon. But it just didn't happen in time for this particular layout. I also took my black piece of paper and I went and ran it through my sewing machine with a yellowy green stitch all the way around the outside to kind of bring in more of that. And I took my cut file and the negative spaces of the stars that I cut out and put them in my mixed media box, and then I sprinkled some Dilutions shimmer spray right over the top, and the two colors that I chose to use are Lemon Zest and Island Parrot, so it's a yellow and a green, and together they make that yellowy green, and I think that works really well. All of these black and white pieces are just out of my scrap bin. I keep my scraps, so I have a warm toned scrap bin, a cool toned scrap bin, and then all of the neutrals, which would include the black and whites. So it was really easy just to go and pull those out. And then I needed to go ahead and trim my photo down because I didn't need all of the top portion of the photo. I probably could have just printed it without all of that on it, but I just used my little trimmer there, trimmed it down, and I'm backing it on a little bit of white paper to make it pop. I know I've got black going on, but I wanted the white to offset the black, so I did use some Black Soot Distress ink though and run it around the outside so it gives it a nice bold black edge. And then I'm doing the same with my scrap pieces that I've got going here. And I'm really liking the way that that's looking. This little piece, I am going to trim it. I'm going to cut it in half and stretch it so that it's a little taller, just to give a little bit more height to it because a lot of it gets covered up by the photograph. And then I am using some Catherine Pooler ink in let's see here, that one's called Melon Ice. So Catherine Pooler ink in Melon Ice to go ahead and ink up the edges of my papers. It's kind of a yellowy green, pretty much the same color as the background, but I think it's the perfect color for this particular layout. And then I did go back around them with some black soot so that the papers pop off of that green circular paper. So wanted a little bit of the green color on the black and white paper, but I wanted the edges to remain black, so that's why I did that. And then my stars, I'm conveniently placing them underneath the photo and the edges of the paper so that the cut off portion doesn't show, so they look like a complete star. It was impossible to get a complete star because of the way the cut file is designed, and that's okay. Not the cut file, the stencil, which I made look like a cut file by tracing it and then cutting it all out. And that was like a labor of love, you know, just taking the time to go ahead and do that. Excuse me. So here's where I go ahead and stretch that bottom piece of paper just to give it a little bit more height, and it's not a huge stretch, just a little bit, and I like the way that it looks a lot better. I ended up going with, I think, the same amount of layers, but then I added in that star piece to just give more interest to this layout. So I've got about the same amount of layers as what the sketch has on it. And for me, when I follow a sketch, it doesn't have to be exact. It just needs to be, it needs to be representative of my work for me. And then using it as a jumping off point is really kind of like what I enjoy doing. So my title's not going in the same spot. My journaling's not going around the outside of the circle or anything like that. While I go ahead and glue down this stenciled piece, I wanted to remind you that there are a bunch of people playing along with both Paw Your Way Into Our Hearts and the Follow a Sketch February hops, and the playlist for each of those are down below, so you can go and check out either one or both. There are probably people playing along and combining the two like I am today, but not necessarily. So you might see lots of animal inspiration that is not necessarily using this sketch, or you may see a lot of people using the sketch that are not documenting their animals. So there you have it. I am using some dies to go ahead and cut out my title. I do not remember the name of these dies right off the top of my head, but I will look them up and I will put it down below in the link list if they are still available, so that you can find those easily if they are something that you are interested in purchasing. I do kind of think they're Sizzix, but I'm not 100% sure. So I apologize that I don't have the name right off the top of my head. So I'm just putting her name on here, and I am going to go with the same splatter technique that I used on the other pieces. And unfortunately, I didn't catch that on camera, but here you're getting to see it over her name. It's really just like doing splatter on a background, but a little bit more condensed over the actual letters. So I like the way that it looks. When it dries, the green is not quite as green as what it looked like in the splatter box, but it just looks, I don't know, more like the background circle there. I was just holding that up in front of the fan. I have a little fan that sits on my desk, and I was holding them up there hoping they would dry pretty quickly because I wanted to get them down on the layout before I was done for the day in my craft area. And so that's what that was all about, in case you're wondering why I'm reaching across my screen. I end up using some pieces from some Assemblage Required, some cat pieces, and a yarn, one from the yarn or sewing set. I think it's yarn. Yeah, it's crochet and knitting. So I will put links for those down below as well, even though I didn't show you up front what those pieces were. I do end up using them. I also end up adding some thread to this layout, and you're going to see that towards the end as well. And I thought that was really, it works well for a cat layout because, you know, cats and balls of string and such. I thought that worked nicely, pairing it together with these wood veneer pieces. Now I don't just use these fish pieces. I only am going to use one of the fish bones, and then I am going to pull out this ball of twine that actually has knitting needles in it, but I'm going to use a blade and trim off the knitting needles so it just looks like a ball of twine or string. And then in one of the pet sets, it's actually the cat set, there is some cat toys. So I'm going to be using 3 different pieces from 3 different sets. And again, I'll link those down below for you so that you can check that out. It is really easy to snap the little knitting needles off because they are very small. And you you know, if I just bend them backwards, they kind of snap off, and then I can kind of clean up where the breakage is. And then I do need to remove the masking off of the top of each one of these pieces. All of the wood veneer has masking on it just to protect it from scorching in the machine that cuts them. And for a piece like this ball of string that has all these little tiny pieces, I am using some duct tape. It's not Duct Brand, it's a different brand, and it doesn't work great on most pieces that have like larger areas. But when it has just this little tiny area, it does work pretty good. But I really have to brandish it over the top with my fingers and rub on it to get it to actually stick and pick up anything. And then all of these pieces are adhesive backed, and I did stick them down, but I do end up prying them up, which is not an easy task. I end up prying them up so that I can tuck a little bit of black thread underneath, and I really like the way that ends up looking. I think it adds a neat texture, and it goes great, like I said, with a cat layout. I am leaving a little spot for journaling in that tag there, and I will probably talk to my son about it before I go ahead and do the journaling, and I think that'll work really well. Now, I apologize also for the little smiley face there because my son doesn't actually really want his face in videos, so I had to go ahead and cover that up. So my apologies that you don't get to see that, and the smiley face had to cover up that last bit because I forgot to leave the Post-it on it when I came back to do my little balls of string. That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions or comments, leave those down below. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today, and hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, and if you enjoyed this video anyway, and I will see you guys again real soon with another one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.